comments. So we'll proceed for approval of the agenda, including the addendum that has 2 parts. May I have a motion, please? Joyce? A second? Peter? Any discussion? All in favor? 6-0. We have a facet update and really the presentation of the grant recipients. So if we could have Nancy Loughran.
Thank you, Marilyn. Oh, there we go. Okay. We are pleased to present to you this year's grant award recipients. We had 16 applications this year, and we approved 11 grants totaling $4,500. And we're going to go through the recipients tonight, many of which are here. I also wanted to introduce 2 of our committee members that served on our grant committee, Joanne Shimko and Michelle Brooks. They were able to join us tonight also, so we thank them for their service to us. So Debbie and I are just going to take turns telling you a little bit about each grant that we did approve. And we're just going in order of elementary, middle, and secondary schools. Our first grant is to Brooks Hill School. The project was the Butterfly Garden submitted by Joy Keller. Is Joy here? Hi, Joy. Come on up, please, for your certificate. This is a grant that will benefit the entire building. Funding of this grant makes Brooks Hill School an official stop on the Butterfly Beltway, the yearly migratory path of monarch butterflies. In collaboration with the Seneca Park Zoo, the program will consist of 3 parts: an educational presentation about the benefits of butterflies, a planting session to install a 100-square-foot butterfly garden in the courtyard, and a butterfly caterpillar release. It's a permanent fixture, and Joy feels the garden will be used as a springboard for other creative endeavors, such as poetry, informational, writing pieces, and also art projects. So congratulations to Brooks Hill School.
The second grant went to Dudley School, and it was called Mindful or Mindful, and it was by Tiffin Stamp and Lori Beth Willard, and they're here tonight. And this will benefit about 100 students in grades 1 and 2. There is a significant amount of research that shows the promising effect of mindfulness being used in education. Mindfulness is a way to refocus the mind and bring awareness to the present situation in order to enhance attention. Practices have proven beneficial for students of varying needs, including improved cognitive social outcomes, social emotional skills, and overall well-being. In today's competitive and stressful society, children need to learn techniques that allow them to focus their minds and relax their bodies. Both Tiffin and Lori Beth attended a week-long training session to become educated in kidding around yoga techniques and are fully prepared to yield effective results for their students with this grant.
Our third grant is also to Dudley School, an egg incubator for classroom use. We had 2 submissions for egg incubators, and we talked to the teachers and we agreed to fund one for the same school. That's Ellen Murphy, and is it Tracy Ting? Tingu. So please come on down. Hatching eggs in the classroom is a real-world experience. It promotes not only scientific inquiry and skills, but touches the students' hearts and builds community. Students discover and learn firsthand about the growth process of animals, about adaptations needed to promote life, and how life begins as a cell and develops into a chick. They connect personally to this experience, and it is not something that can be taught through books or videos. So, congratulations.
And the next grant also went to Dudley School, and that's called Play-Based Learning with Kiva Planks, and it was submitted by Christine Cardona Berger and Emily Kraft. And Christina's here tonight. The National Association for the Education of Young Children reports that unit blocks such as Kiva planks are ideal for beginning learning because they involve the child as a whole. They provide immediate tactile feedback as they are handled. They allow the exploration of space and develop experiences that translate later into mathematical understanding. They encourage children to develop independent thinking and creativity and can be used to create and solve problems as children interact with the planks.
Our fifth grant goes to Jefferson Avenue School and Nicole Allen. I think I saw Nicole here, for motivational instructional materials for students. Nicole's in the reading department over at Jefferson Avenue, and this will serve up to 30 students a year. Choice is a major way to motivate students, and motivated students use taught strategies needed to succeed. By being able to work in different locations, stocked with differing tools that make learning fun, students are provided with mini breaks and movement that recharges them after a mini lesson or structured activity. Nicole says she's constantly striving to make reading more interesting and fun for the reading groups she works with, and these simple motivational tools such as koosh balls, fidget items, and boogie boards allow her to do just that. Thanks, Nicole.
And the next grant is called Magna Tiles for JA Kindergarten Classrooms. And I believe there's some JA Kindergarten teacher here tonight. The purpose of this grant was to enhance the learning experience of kindergarten students. After their own experiences, observations, and training at the Strong Museum, we believe that Magna Tiles promote imaginative play and help support students in developing positive play skills. Magna Tiles can be used to build, problem solve, and improve critical thinking and fine motor skills. And they're improved just by manipulation of the tiles. Students will practice math skills, social emotional skills, language skills, and science social studies skills while using the Magna Tiles.
Okay, our next grant is for positive behavioral interventions and support at Northside. I believe both Christine Bushnell and, is Megan here tonight? Okay. All right, thank you. After initial district training in PBS last year, Northside School established a multidisciplinary team that includes reps from each grade level, the mental health team, instructional specialists, and administrators. Their existing motto, Northside Hero, which stands for Help, Encourage, Respect Others, is a great foundation on which to build the PBIS program. The desire to create a recognition and incentive program for the students includes positive morning messages and a hero highlight section for student acknowledgement, where students would receive a Northside Hero bracelet for exhibiting the 4 common expectations of being respectful, responsible, safe, and kind, and being a positive school role model. Additionally, money would also augment Northside's library with picture books that reinforce positive behavior that can be used by the entire staff to augment these lessons. So congratulations, Northside.
The next grant is called Hands-On Traveling History Museum. It was presented by the 8th grade social studies teachers from Martha Brown and Johanna Perrin, and Barb Grau is here tonight. History is exciting, hands-on, and engaging. Unfortunately, not all students feel that, as history is often presented in a two-dimensional manner. We are proposing to bring history to life for our students by designing artifact kits that would allow the creation of mobile museums. Instead of a field trip to a museum, which often includes a look but don't touch clause, museum kits we would create with this grant funding would focus specifically on content from the 1930s and World War II to create hands-on experiences for 8th grade students. Students are visual and tactile learners, and being able to hear, smell, and touch history will make the strong connections students crave and make them passionate about the past.
Our next grant is the Nassau Design Challenge. It was submitted by Andrea Costanza from Minerva DeLand School. She's a science teacher, and she's got a prop on for us tonight as well. So, with this grant funding, students will have the chance to do a water filtration challenge, design a Mars lander and rover, and an ablative shield challenge. These challenges are both unique and creative. The lesson plans were obtained from a professional development opportunity Andrea participated in at the U.S. Space and Rocket Center last year. The challenges promote creative classroom learning experiences by allowing students to participate in authentic, real-world engineering tasks. Like a potential career setting, students must work in groups, stay within a budget, share ideas, make final decisions, and implement, assess, and work to improve their designs. Engineering exposure is currently not part of the curriculum, but it has been shown to improve students' math and science skills, teach that failure is a part of problem solving, and develop 21st century skills critical for college and career success. So, congratulations, Andrea.
The next grant is called Classroom Breakout Session Kits, and it was submitted by Marilee Buffum and Virginia Donahue at the high school. It will benefit many classrooms at the high school. With your generous gift, we would like to purchase 6 breakout kits for our classrooms. Each kit contains materials to create breakout sessions in each classroom, which is an activity where students use materials from the kit, as well as teacher-created activities from kit materials to solve a series of puzzles using background content knowledge, working as a team to unlock a series of puzzles. Wait, I lost my place. Working as a team to unlock a box which contains an answer or solution to the original problem. These sessions strengthen skills such as collaboration, problem solving, critical thinking, communication, and logic without realizing that learning is taking place. One of the submitters was introduced to this kit at a professional development seminar at Cornell and found it to be one of the most creative, intriguing, and engaging activities ever done in a workshop. This will add real excitement to the learning process in many classrooms at FHS.
And our final grant is three-dimensional illustration with little bits. It's part of a STEAM lesson. Alyssa DeChick from the high school was the submitter of this. And the grades benefiting will be the entire high school, approximately 60 students this year that are in the art. This is a collaborative grant with additional funding being provided by the district with Kristen Larson and Susan Wall's groups. So we funded $300, and that's going to be matched by the district. Little Bits engineering part sets available in the elementary school were borrowed and used at the high school level to incorporate engineering and technology into a multidisciplinary drawing unit last year. Students were able to learn how these engineering bits work and apply this knowledge to create moving parts to their illustrations, making cars appear to skid off roads, characters rock back and forth in a chair, superheroes in planes fly through the sky, and surfers ride meteors. Having a set available to FHS to be shared with colleagues would allow the set to be used year-round for high school art students. Several of last year's STEAM projects were recorded and shared with 2nd, 3rd, and 5th graders at JA, which was also a great connection for both the elementary and high school students to experience. So, congratulations. So, I hope the board can see that our grants are across the board. We had submissions from every school this year, which was the first time each school at least submitted something to us. To date, we have funded $17,500 roughly in grants over our 4 grant cycles. Our average grant this year was about a little over $400, but that was a little on the high end. Usually our grants are $275 to $325, but as you can see, we're impacting a lot of students with this nominal amount of money, and I think the majority of you have probably received all, if not at least some, of what we've ordered for you, which is a nice way for a nonprofit to be able to really get this into the classroom quickly and have the students benefiting from it. So thank you again for your submissions, and we're looking forward to hearing the feedback and what you find helped in your classrooms, and hopefully we can springboard to even more great projects for your colleagues. Just a reminder, we would like to grab a picture. We're going to go out and down the hallway so we don't interrupt the meeting, but then we'll be back.
Thank you so much, Nancy and Deb, and all the facet people have organized and have given such great opportunities to our teachers. Congratulations to the teachers. It just sounds wonderful what you're going to do for the kids, and congratulations to the kids who are all these activities that seem so creative. Thank you so much.
Yes, thanks, Marilyn. Thank you.
Just a 3-minute break.
I gotta
How
stay
many
here.
seconds is
I gotta
that?
stay here.
I believe our student advisor, Sydney Barrett, is not in attendance tonight. So we'll proceed to President and Board reports. I forgot to give to you each the PDF for the activities, but it did bring to mind, are we still 100% wanting to submit these activities every month? And if we are, could I hand it off to somebody else on the board to do? Because it tends to, I think, create a lot of work, and hopefully if somebody else could streamline it. So this month, I just ran off some hard copies.
I sent
for
mine. I want you to be proud of me.
You sent it without me prompting you.
I
No,
never do
that's
that. I
a
never
great
do that.
board member. So I do have these. I don't know how you're going to get back to me, but I know there are problems with with
Yes.
sending stuff on a PDF. It just isn't always reliable, and it's kind of quirky. So I'd like to know your druthers on that, if we're going to go ahead and submit those every month. I would like some help with that. The other thing I'd like to talk about is we have several applications for overnight trips for board approval. And as a board, we've been talking over time quite a bit about concern, I don't know if we would say concerns or just some issues involving overnight trips. And I was talking before the meeting to Brett, and he has been working on some of these very issues that we've been talking about, and maybe you could fill us in on a few of them.
Yeah, I'm really, after a year, understanding that this is a very important priority for the Board of Education. We believe in extracurricular opportunities and field trips and the value that they bring, but we also believe in the ideas of equity and access and making sure that the cost of going to Fairport is well received and heeded when we engage in these trips. So as part of my process, when they come across my desk, I've talked to principals, I've talked to directors, asking those questions about access and equity, scholarships or grants when applicable. And I'm also working on the form, trying to make it more consistent and seamless for you to access as you review the trips, because you do want to know the details and you want to understand the full impact for the classroom and implications for the classroom. So I'm looking forward to having more discussions, and I could share with you our progress with our new forum. I could share with you my process that I've sort of created, as I'm reviewing field trips.
And I would like to suggest to the board that we put this as one of our topics at our next workshop and discuss it more thoroughly and see in detail what Brett has put into action. And I believe, Maureen, you have...
I have a report.
Yes, Maureen has a report.
I'm on the safety committee, and most of you know there has to be a board member by state law on the safety committee. And the state law, of course, keeps changing as it tries to make sure that we are safe the way they think we should be safe. So we met last month for the first time in a while, addressed some of the issues there, and then we broke into smaller groups to discuss whatever was pertinent to the particular people there. And I went over to the group that was the represented fire and safety. And there's a gentleman there, and don't ask me any names, but there's a gentleman there who's not only a Fairport member of the Fairport Fire Department, but also a professional firefighter. And we had Pete Marini, who is in our district in one capacity, but serves as a fire chief in his own home, so his hometown. So I said to him, this is a follow-up on what we heard this summer, that there are some people who are concerned about what would happen if there was a chemical fire in the Fairport community, particularly with the railroads that come through. And I said, what would you think about that? And I said, what should we do? And is this something that should be part of our safety committee? And there was not a bit of hesitation from the people there. They just said, yeah, that's a problem. We in the fire department have already got a process and what we know what's going to happen. The bad news, it depends on which way the wind is blowing. Our answer is, we will do whatever the fire department or the professionals say. We will do whatever it takes to keep our children safe in their buildings, outside of the buildings, and that's the answer that we got. They are very aware of the fact that trains go through this district. They are very aware of the fact that there's places throughout the community where things could happen, and it could present an unsafe situation. But they have come up with their very own safety plans to address this issue, and I wasn't aware of that. We were being asked what were we going to do about chemical fires in the community, about fires that had the potential because of the trains that come through the district. And I was very reassured to hear these, oh yeah, we have a plan. And Ross was there at the time, and yeah, he knows exactly, he's going to do whatever they tell us to do, because there's a system in place. And I just wanted to share that information with you, because when things come to our community from many different sources, we don't always have answers. But there are places where you can find answers. So I think we said we would look into this, and I wanted to tell you what I found out, and I'm sure we can share that information with the person who was originally making that request.
Yes, this is an outgrowth of a community comment on the trains carrying the
Lots of things,
oil or,
lots of things
yeah.
through the community.
So is that in their safety book that every building has that they refer to? Is it their reference in the book?
Is there a reference to the book? It is
So they
in the
would know
fire
what to
department's
do?
book.
Well,
Brett,
we have in all of our building-based emergency plans, as well as our district plan, emergency hazardous materials protocols that we adhere to, and, you know, and there's also local area agencies that we need to connect to, and our process with how we evaluate and assess our chemical closets each year, that's part of it. So it's a well-documented process.
as I say, we did not know the answer to that, so I followed through and found out.
But to your
right
point,
away.
though, if an unfortunate accident does occur, you know, we will defer to their expertise.
Absolutely. Well, I think the other thing is, it took me by surprise because I wasn't thinking, our community safety plan is what are we going to do in our district? And this was happening outside our district, outside our buildings. It's happening in our district, but outside our buildings. So that's why I followed through and did ask that question, just for your own information. And the other thing, in reference to something Brett had said to us previously, is there seem to be some holes in entering and exiting the buildings. And how do we keep that area safe? Because sometimes people have to use fobs and sometimes they don't, and so on and so forth. And I know that's one of the topics that I'm going to bring up at the next safety committee meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So if I get any more information, I'd be glad to share. So that's my report on safety.
Thank you. Thank you for following up on
It's-
that, Maureen.
I mean, there's a lot of things going on. This is not, you will find at the end of the whole time frame, when we talk about these things, the board has to come back and approve the findings of the safety committee, approve the plan, and has to send that on to the state to say, yes, we are following the state's directive, and so on and so forth. So there is time for us to get more information. There's a 30-day, sort of like having a policy, and then you have 30 days from the first reading to the finalization. So there has to be time for the community to comment on these things as well. So it's a whole interesting process, and I'm just sort of feeding you new information as I get it. Many of the things that are in the safety plan, we've been following for years. But every once in a while, new questions come up. So,
Thank you. Brett, superintendent's report?
Good evening. That facet presentation was incredible. And I think if you just sort of came into this district and this was your first day into the district and you heard what those grants or what they were about and what they espouse, I think it speaks to the Board of Education's core beliefs. It speaks to the district goals, you know, developmentally appropriate practices for the classroom, K-12, exploration, creativity, inquiry, the STEAM principles are alive and well, and the habits of mind that we're reinforcing. Being able to have that resource is just an incredible testament to what we believe and what the board enables in the district. So that was definitely a great recognition and celebration. I just received a note from Piper Bailey. If those who know Piper Bailey, she sent me a nice little thank you note to Mr. Provenzano and the Board of Education. On behalf of the class of 2017, I just wanted to say thank you for allowing us to participate on our senior trip. I personally learned a lot about the beautiful city of Boston, as well as Salem, Massachusetts. Without your support and endorsement, we wouldn't have had the opportunity to strengthen friendships as well as create new ones. Thank you once again. Best regards, Piper Bailey. And I know
she's the president of
she's the
the
president
class,
of
the senior class.
Yep. And again, congratulations and kudos to the FHS team for all their planning and commitment, and for those who stayed behind to help out to keep things going. A job well done.
Could I ask Dominic if there's a YouTube video?
Yeah. I would also like to recognize tomorrow night, it's a very special night in Fairport. It will be the Wall of Distinction here. We'll be honoring four incredible members of our school community: Lyndon Northrup, Dave Dunn, Mark Troyewitz, and Bob Longhouse. And being fortunate, being in this district for the past 10 plus years, I've gotten to know all of these inductees, and I'm honored to be a part of that process. So that will be tomorrow evening here at FHS. I believe it starts at 7 p.m. Between January 24th and February 1st, we will be continuing our conversation. It will be a community conversation on racism. I am not a racist. MI will be coming back to the Fairport Central School District. This year, we're going to be incorporating our friends from Minerva DeLand and FHS to have an opportunity to collaborate on such an important topic that, you know, you could turn on the news station today and you'll see that conversation being had, and we want to give our students the resources to have that, the tools to be successful and proactive and active in that endeavor. We'll be also having some community forums in the very near future, so we're looking forward to building upon that conversation. And this is a partnership with Pittsford Central School District, Penfield Central School District, and West Irondequoit. So we're collaborating, and we believe that that's where the value is, the cross conversations that are going to occur amongst our school members and communities.
I believe Greece is going to be part of it, too.
On Friday, yeah, there's a series of activities where I believe we have a number of FHS students, 7, I believe, going to Greece to participate in a Monroe County endeavor on race and race relations. And Kelly Weishar, our Access and Equity Liaison, will be supporting that effort, and we'll be talking more about that in the future. And again, directly related to connections and access and equity. I really feel compelled to share this, and I need you to bear with me as I share some thoughts as I've been pondering the implications of our last week with our election. The thing that comes to my mind is the concept of public education when I think about this past week. The operative word in public education is public. Our country is founded on the principles of democracy. All people are created equal. And I underscore the word all. In the realm of education, and in particular in Fairport, we hold the democratic truth close to our hearts. Public education is sacrosanct and synonymous with a high-functioning democratic society, one that we strive to model, practice, and realize to its fullest extent daily. As educators, we provide hope daily. In Fairport, we strive to inspire and live by the enduring principles of care. I believe that the world as a whole truly wants to live by these ideals. And we are all certainly better when we foster and model these traits as a local and global community. When these traits are not being played out in our daily lives, we become disappointed and even anxious, as we have seen this past week played out in many different social networks. Yet our resolve to make them come to light grows deeper to ensure that we are creating whole people in Fairport, caring people in Fairport. I can spend an entire evening discussing how we witness the care values in action throughout the year and daily here in Fairport. In Fairport, we program and we teach with the heart and soul in mind. More than ever, and I'm repeating this, more than ever, given what we've learned and what we've seen, our resolve to promote civic responsibility and a respectful and caring environment for all of our students is greater than ever. Now, I promise you here, I'm trying not to make a political statement. It's a reflection that has come to the forefront of my thoughts based upon the political landscape, which I believe may impact our work with children. As someone who works closely with children and educators, my hope is to develop our understanding of the political context of our environment so we can organize our message and align our programming as we sharpen our advocacy efforts for the future. The nation's pre-K-12 public schools are a prominent issue. The Every Student Succeeds Act is under close scrutiny, and the educational leaders are in suspended animation to understand how this act will translate in our new administration. When it comes to civil rights reporting, yearly testing, and federal funding, we are waiting to see where the president-elect's agenda will take us. Admittedly, it's early. However, we are being watchful, particularly since the President-elect Trump, based upon his campaign promises, has stated his desires to dismantle or downsize the Department of Education in a big league fashion. Nobody really understands what this means yet, and it may be a good thing on its face, decentralizing authority away from the federal government and transferring it to states where we are closer to the interests of our communities makes sense in some areas. More discretion may be given to states on dealing with controversial topics like quality, the quality, the quantity, and the extent of 3 through 8 testing, the spending of federal funds, and/or civil rights issues like transgender or special ed students' rights. Contrary to what we know as highly effective practices, the President-elect also believes that competition in the educational marketplace will yield results for children. On his website, the President-elect has pledged a $20 billion grant program to promote school choice for inner-city children, offering parents a say over the educational experiences their children receive, including through vouchers, charter schools, and magnet schools. These schools will be tailored for students based upon their academic profiles and their behavioral attributes. Some questions that come to my mind include, do these ideals complement or deter us from the values of public schooling? Are there regional schooling opportunities to build upon our beliefs in embracing diversity in Fairport for us to realize here? Where would the dollars for this initiative come from, and how does this impact Fairport's current funding structure? Will this be accomplished by refocusing existing federal funds? And what is the impact of this initiative on current federal grants, funding which schools have come to rely on to support programming, particularly in this era of the tax cap? We need to proceed with prudence. If one digs deeper into his campaign promises, thousands of teachers nationwide, and more importantly, millions of children may be impacted because they rely on special education dollars and/or supplemental Title federal funds to support their schooling. Supplemental dollars have been an integral component of the federal government's commitment to providing funding to local school districts to improve experiences for students of low-income families, special needs students, and our English language learners. In Fairport, if supplemental title monies are withdrawn or withheld, this could impact our local share and/or decrease services in programming. Currently, we receive approximately $850,000 in title monies and $1.3 million in special ed funding to pay for professional development as well as services for English language learners at risk or impoverished students and special ed programming. It may even impact our staffing because we use title money to partially support salaries, and more importantly, it can affect how we support students with programs like Star Summer School or our partnerships with local agencies like Strong Behavior Health. When reflecting upon this scenario, it quickly becomes a civil rights issue to ensure that we have resources to support all of our students. In closing, and thank you for bearing with me, it appears that we are at a crossroads. Having clarity of our purpose on the important issues this era beholds is our imperative for Fairport students and for public education. We need to make sure that critical funding for public schools remains intact. As campaign promises evolve into planning, it is crucial that we partner with government officials at the state and federal levels to inform them how their potential decisions may impact Fairport and public education as a whole. It is paramount that we are organized and informed so we can advocate with clarity and purpose so we can be effective change agents and partners for the good of all children and for the good of public education. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was an amazing statement, Brett. Thank you so much. We as a district have our work ahead of us, don't we? Matt, you have to follow that with your treasurer's report.
Hang on to your seats. The treasurer's report that we have was for the month ending September of 2016. We had a beginning balance in September of $34.9 million, total receipts of $18.4 million, disbursements of $10.6 million, for an ending cash balance of $42.7 million, running along the same lines of about $7.5 million difference of last year. But if you compare last year's to this year's as well, timing-wise, the timing of the receipts related to taxes, and then a couple of bills related to BOCES and health insurance were paid in September, whereas last year the timing was just a little bit off, probably October. Thank you.
So we're down based on September, or we're up? I mean, you said a difference of 7. Is it up or down?
$7.5 million difference compared to last year's cash balance
Is
point.
it up or down?
Down,
Oh,
yes. Consistently, it's been down. It's primarily due to the reserve expenses that we had out of last year. Yeah.
Gee, I'm always hopeful.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is the approval of the consent calendar. I failed to remind everyone that when we approved the agenda, that was the time to take items off if they wish them to be discussed, so I'll offer that now. If not, may I have a motion for approval of the consent calendar? Marty? Second? Damon? All in favor? 6-0. Next is the personal actions, and we have part of the addendum added to this with an additional part-time appointment. So, may I have a motion for approval? Joyce, second. Marty? Discussion?
Yeah, just a quick question. I'm not sure, sorry. A quick question regarding substitute teachers. Some of them, one, I'm just curious, actually, no big deal, but next to Andrew Dunn, it says California in parentheses at the end. What does that refer to?
I would make the leap, saying that this gentleman has a certification from California, and he'll be working his way back to the Rochester area, and it's a placeholder.
Okay, I gotcha. And then my other question was, and I can assume what this means, but some say working towards certification, so I assume that if they don't say that, they are certified already?
I would make that assumption, too.
All right, okay.
And I think this speaks to Kate Hill's efforts to try to get as many qualified people to sub, and that depleted resource bank that we have, trying to build that up.
All in favor?
Can I just discuss one more thing regarding, sort of fitting in this section? I actually got somebody sent me an email saying that she had a son that was graduating high school and going into an education program in Nazareth, and she asked me if we as a district were aware of the quality of Nazareth's education program as opposed to other schools. And I gave her, I talked to my wife, and I asked her what her experience was with Nazareth student teachers, but I also referred the woman to talk to Kate Hill. So, it was very positive to me that there still are kids thinking about education as a field, and I think that they are wondering now, because there has been dramatic changes in the education programs in the colleges. So I think that, it's just something to be aware of, and maybe just, even when you talk to Kate, give her a heads up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next is the non-instructional and civil service staff actions. May I have a motion, please? Damon? Second? Maureen? Discussion? All in favor? 6-0. Memorandum of agreement for the school support personnel. May I have a motion, please? Damon, second. Maureen, discussion?
So I thank you for the clarification around this, but I'm just wondering, just for the sake of discussion, could you just explain this one more time?
For the memorandum of agreement with the SSP group, there were two titles that were added back in 2014 that also served as a memorandum of understanding, and it was the maintenance one, and it was the other one was I forget what I put in that email, but it was another supervisory position, and it wasn't added this round of negotiations. It was supposed to be. It just was inadvertently added, so they had to put this back in. And again, these were just two additional titles that were added to the unit as a couple years ago they restructured.
Do we actually have personnel in these job titles, or these are just
And-
available?
And you know what? They are incredible assets to our school, and as we visit this group, I think it's coming up, it would be great for Ross Trula and his team to explain and maybe introduce you to these wonderful people. Yep. Paul Myers and Mark. Yep.
All in favor? 6-0. Memorandum of Agreement, Fairport District Paraprofessionals. May I have a motion, please? Maureen? Second? Damon? Discussion?
Would you do the same thing, please?
Yeah,
Explain this.
this was just trying to align our contracts to have some consistency, and this was about religious holidays and making sure that if appropriate, if a professional needs to take a leave based upon, or a vacation based upon a religious holiday, they can have that time off. And that's just to get it in their language, and that's something that build that consistency across all the contracts.
All in favor? 6-0. We have a presentation by Campus Construction on our on the capital project update.
Okay, tonight we have Mark Esposito with Campus Construction that will be presenting, and joining him is
Christine.
Antonio Torchia. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
All right.
You said it wonderfully,
Sounded almost Italian. Esposito and Torquia.
Oh, it's right there. Excuse me.
Oh, man.
Good evening. Give an update on the 2015 capital improvement project with a.
Hey, just one clarification.
Yes.
Earlier when we had the award ceremony, she said that they're teaching kids that in engineering it's okay to make mistakes. And I was just going to clarify that in this case it's not okay.
We like to hold ourselves up to that standard also.
Mistakes on somebody else's.
Understood. Bar set high early here. So our $29.2 million capital improvement project, we have broken down our budget into 4 categories. Our incidental budget of just over $4 million. Our construction contingency budget, we'll showing update in the next slide, started at $1.754 million. Our phase 1 contracts that are in place for this is for the roofing project as a whole, totaling just over $15.7 million. And then our phase 2 available construction funds of the $7,644,000 that we're going to be talking about later on in this project, because we're getting ready to prepare for bidding that work as it gets reviewed by SED. So we have an update on that also. Any questions with the breakdown? So our construction contingency, we started the project off at that $1,754,000. To date, we have approved a credit of $220,569. So our construction contingency has increased
Yay,
at this portion of
credits.
the project. So we are well ahead of our schedule within the budget circumstances of this project, showing you that we are 61% complete with the project based on paying out of the contractors and work performed. And we have spent $0 out of our construction contingency. So that is putting us in a great place moving forward into the second phase of our $29.2 million project. We do have $85,000 worth of allowances built into our contracts for the roofing contractors. And we've used $27,000 of that on some unforeseen items that we've run to out in the field. So again, only 32% of that with 61% of it. When you try to run those projects, you want to make sure those numbers stay consistent as you go through the schedule, and we are well above, where we need to be moving forward financially. And we are tracking $286,000 worth of credits still that show up in your issue log in the monthly reports that were handed out. So again, even better still, we're looking to still deduct money from the contracts. I'm able to save the installation material that we've talked about in previous meetings. Really looking to get into the high school work next spring to be able to finalize that. So there's a portion of this that we still is unidentified, which is scheduled for next summer to be worked on. Any questions financially where we stand? So an update of the overall scope of work at all of the buildings. This summer, with our great weather that we had here in Western New York, we were able to get out ahead in a lot of areas and a lot of the buildings. We were able to complete over 300,000 square feet of roofing across all of your buildings, which is a astronomical accomplishment. And it's something that kept us above schedule and ahead of schedule. And as you can see, remaining at Martha Brown is some masonry restoration. Jefferson Ave is roofing only. We were able to get there early this summer, work with the district, the personnel at the building, replace some exterior soffits, do the masonry restoration work that was there. And so all we have left now is the roofing work. And here at the high school, through the fall, we've been working with the district, the personnel in the building to be able to work second shift, doing some of the masonry restoration. So when the weather breaks in the spring and the summertime, we're able to get up on this roof and not be removing brick in any of that work because it's already done. Start roofing right away. So we're ahead of schedule going into next year already. So with this weather, we were able to capitalize on that. So we're under budget, ahead of schedule. I mean, those are all great things that make for a great capital improvement project. So we're continue to push that. Any questions with that? So we have some photos of the areas in the different buildings just showing you the roofs. Feel free to ask any questions as we have this. But a look at Minerva DeLand, the new roof that was put in there. We had just about 86,000 square feet of roof completed at Minerva DeLand.
Mark, how long do we estimate these roofs will last before we have to come out with the next roofing proposal? Any thoughts
We have
on?
a 25 or 30-year warranty. Is it 30-year? We have a 30-year warranty, and all of the roofs that were completed this summer have already had a walkthrough on those roofs, so we have that warranty is set in place now. So that is as of this fall.
So
30 years from now.
2046.
Correct.
Okay. Not in my lifetime, guys. That's the good news.
So it. Yeah. So at Joanna Perrin, we replaced about 6,000 square feet of roof at 2 different locations, about equal sizing. Martha Brown, again, approximately 6,000 square feet were completed here. Brooks Hill Elementary, we had close to 48,000 square feet of roof that was replaced over the summertime. North side, we had about 60,000 square feet that were completed in the summertime. And then over at Dudley, we had close to 98,000 square feet of roof replaced at these spaces. Also did the roof, some roofs at Balmer Administration Building over the summer. And then we did the exterior soffits at Jay's that we talked about. And then over at the high school, some of the work, just to give you an idea of what we're actually doing up there in that building. This is the through-wall flashing that allows the water to come up through the brick as it soaks through there. And the roofs come up to it so that it allows the water to drain out. We go in there, we remove courses of brick, put the backing that goes in there. And then you see the new row of brick that gets installed right above that. And you have the weep system that allows the water to come out of the brick wall. And I'll look at it right above it, so a nice close-up, so we try to go in there and match it up, and that goes up through all of your roof area as we replace the roofs. So any questions with the phase that we're currently on with the roofing piece? So the phase 2 portion of the work, which is the inside of the buildings and site work, if you remember when we bid the roofing piece of this, our bids came in at an exceptional number. We actually had more money to go back into this piece of this. Originally, when we budgeted this, we had just about $4.5 million. As you saw after we bid, now we have $7.644 million to spend on this phase. So one of the things that the project team has been working on is identifying additional scope of work that could be done. And so we see here, from when we first originally approved that referendum, we have additional scope. Some of the base bid items at Fairport High School that we've added at this is toilet room renovations throughout the entire building, the locker room renovations of the PE locker rooms, and then we also have some new auditorium seating and carpet happening. So those are additional items that were never part of the original referendum that the district's able to capitalize on getting good bids when we bid in a good climate area. To protect our bidding as we get ready for this, we've identified some other additional items that were never originally part of the scope. The events entry in the back side of the building, putting a canopy there, really showing a designation area for that, along with renovations to that corridor as you come in the back side of that. At the main entrance where we have our secure entrance coming as part of this project, which is part of the original referendum, is always one of the main portions of work that was happening here at the high school. A parking lot renovation that would go with that we would bid as an alternate. If we had successful bid day numbers and we had the money to do this work, we could award these alternates. So that's something that we're going to be looking to do.
Could you explain that concept of alternative bids?
Yeah, no problem. So,
Protection you talked about?
Correct. So what we do when we go estimate a project, we want to make sure our project's within budget. As we do this, we can go 5%, it can go above or below, but when we go get ready to bid, we want to make sure that we have enough scope if we have good bid day numbers and we're 5% under budget, that we could award those additional scope. So you don't have leftover money per se at the end of a project. You're able to capitalize on as much design scope that's out there and be able to award that. And if bid numbers, if we had a bad bid market and bids came in over budget, these alternates we would not be able to accept them, but you still would get your base bid scope of work, so you would have a construction project to award.
So the base bid is based on worst case, per se. And
Correct.
if you can really do your job well and get attractive bids, leaving extra money, these are extra things that we can do to maximize the funds that the bidders are.
And that's exactly it, to a T, because we try to do, and you see these alternates, we try to lump things that are easy for contractors to identify, so you're not making a very difficult scope of work that makes it complex that they have to leave out floater numbers. This is something they can see and put a very good, easy estimate to, and it helps protect our budget in the long run.
So it's not the way to alter the alternates, that those are already been set based on what was approved?
Well, there is a base bid our referendum had wording of scope of work that had to be completed. And this is above and beyond that's been discussed and been designed and submitted to SED for approval.
Oh, okay.
Who discussed those, and how those alternates come about?
Our project team, led with Brett, Matt, Ross, our designers, we're looking at the scope of work. Previous BCSs that you had, your building condition surveys from 2005 and 2010, identified needs of items that were need to be addressed in a future capital project. So the team tried to identify those and put those at one of the higher priorities.
There's no way to change it at this point, and I don't have any suggestions, by the way.
I do.
What's involved here?
At this point, because it's at SED and in the review process, which has been, we submitted it to SED in April, and getting ready for this project, it would delay the project, if it was to change, it would delay the project from being approved at SED.
I have a question, if you don't mind. And it's, I wouldn't say the word political, but political. We've been hearing a lot of different things about people who need to have more privacy in locker room areas and in toilet room areas. That's probably the nicest way to say it. Is there any thought that what you are doing, we won't have to redo to change, if the law goes back and changes, will we have the ability to, are you already doing that? Are you already ahead of what we think the
I'm
laws
going
are
to
going to
let
say?
Kevin Rodemacher from LaBelle Associates,
Oh,
who is
goody.
the
Thank you,
architect,
Kevin.
to jump in there because they've done such a good job on this.
Thanks.
You're right, it says locker room, so I was
I
curious
just,
about
I
the
saw those
same
too,
thing.
and that's
Does it
where we know
address that?
the controversy has been recently.
Yeah, so we've actually designed toilet room renovations in this, as well as the locker room replacement. The quick and easy method that we're going about dealing with a transgender population right now is that we are providing new single-stall bathrooms. So where we're renovating, say, a multi-stall staff bathroom right now, certainly doesn't meet ADA clearances anyway, so it makes sense to go down to a single fixture toilet room, lockable, and it's a matter of changing the signage on the door to be, say, an all sex or whatever terminology we decide to use for the signage, where any staff can use it and any transgender person can use that at any point in time. Gang bathrooms inherently are very hard to deal with in that situation because we're both dealing with achieving ADA accessibility plus the privacy issue. So the simple way is to convert all of the single fixture toilet rooms into a all-sex use. For locker room areas, what we're incorporating and what we've talked about and designed is we're basically creating coaches, combined coaches office, referee changing areas. So there's an actual shower, toilet room, like toilet fixture, and a couple of lockers within a separate isolated space. But there's really no good direction on really how to achieve that in a locker room right now because there's changing areas open to everybody and there's no direction from anywhere. But to the best of our ability, we've designed in a space where someone can change and feel comfortable.
Well, and just not even thinking about that, but there now are sports where there are women on boys' teams or girls on boys' teams and boys on girls' teams. So that's another consideration in of its own.
Yeah, I am concerned that the locker rooms, though, that ultimately we're going to have to do something. I hate to do one thing now just to change it later. I mean, it's going to the Supreme Court, so it should be fairly soon that something comes
No.
of this. Because the Supreme Court does move along, unlike Congress, so, but I would hope we can do it right once.
Understood.
So it was just a question because we are doing something before we have to do it. Therefore, how far ahead of the curve are we trying to be? Do we need to be?
Did you have something? In terms of what, the toilet rooms or the
Well,
locker rooms?
as we go through looking at the toilet room renovations and the locker room renovations, and I see that they're just at the high school, that's where the concern is coming from kids in that, as they change their identity.
Yeah,
Or recognize that their identity has changed.
Yeah, I think that it was just due to the scope of work that we happen to be addressing the toilet rooms in the high school is why we're showing that. But that function can also be, if it's a signage change and it's a single hole lockable toilet room, you can change that function really at any school building as long as you have that staff bathroom that you can convert.
So again, I just want to confirm my understanding. So the single bathrooms, if you will, they're just going to be made into open bathrooms, right, with locks, I mean.
Lockable, so due to, I mean, in all likelihood, the transgender population won't increase dramatically.
Yep.
So you have a teacher population,
Yep.
and you have a fixture count that will accommodate that.
Yep.
So you're maybe talking about a few students here and there.
Yep.
If they have key and access to those locker rooms, they can still be lockable.
Right.
And they can be used by any teacher, any person can go and use them.
All right.
I'm not
In
suggesting they
designing-
stay open.
In
to
making this changes to the bathrooms and the locker rooms, did you talk at all with students to get their needs and concerns, or any organizations that, help people make these decisions? Because it's a whole new thing, obviously, and it's changing.
To us.
We have consulted with council, but I also, Bob Clark, I'm going to invite him to add a little something, because he was at the center of the design.
Yeah, we had initial conversations with our GSA club back when we had the consideration to talk about cap and gowns. We had also outlaid that, we didn't know what the potential was, but that there was possibility that we'd be able to alter the bathrooms in a manner to make them more comfortable. And so we asked for input along those lines, and part of our planning was to strategically place the bathrooms throughout the building so that they weren't coming from one end of the building to the other in order to do that.
How about locker rooms? The bathrooms
The
sound
same-
like that's really
That was a part of
set.
the
That
conversation
sounds
as
good.
well as the locker rooms. The difference is, in terms of the alternates, just based on cost, and again, considering it's all extra that we're looking at, is, whether or not the team rooms we're in or not in is a part of the factor in terms of having that. Right now, it's an identified area, the team rooms that we have, which is not used by the locker rooms on a regular basis, could be used during a day. But the state of the team rooms now is a project in the future for us. So we won't have to change what we're doing now, but will continue to be a consideration in another capital project as we address the team rooms, which are in pretty bad shape.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions with the high school stuff I can run through? Thank you for helping with that.
Call him out of the bullpen.
That's your design professional at work. So at Minerva Deland, our base bid, we have exterior doors on the building. As an alternate, the interior vestibule doors we identified was something else that could be done at that building, so we put them, that was designed in there so we can make sure that's an efficient, energy efficiency item. At Dudley, we're gonna finish off the parking lot work that was started over there, along with some ventilation improvements in areas of the buildings that were identified in your BCS scope of work. Same thing with Northside, you had some ventilation items that need to be addressed there, and we'll also be building the other side of the parking, that mirror image parking lot of the stone pad that's out there. We'll be building that next summer also there. And then there's an access road that goes back for safety and security reasons at Martha Brown here, also in this project.
That's
So
a tough road.
What is that access road
it goes back to your fields. Right now, there's no way for an ambulance or a security safety truck to get back to those if there was
They
something.
got a
that we needed
Baja
to-
up there.
Yeah. They can't handle that all terrain. So any questions with the scope?
Just a question mark on the Dudley parking lot. Are people able to use that presently? I've
Right.
seen cars parked there, but I don't know if it's,
Right now, it has been decommissioned as a construction area. It can be used. It's going to be one of the district's policies on how the usage of that is right now. So right now, it is a stone parking lot that is not being used for staging anymore because that's where we did have roofing materials. And I'd hand that one off to the district policies.
Just if we do use that right now for parking, are we going to be disrupting the foundation when you finish it?
No. The contractors that are coming in, they have to put the asphalt down, have to retamp it, put new stone down it, smooth it out. They own creating that, so.
How much would it cost to quickly paint something at least so it's not chaos on the big days they get used?
Yes.
We can-
What would it cost to line? Yeah, you know it. Well, it's just overflow, right? That's why, but certain days that overflow is needed and the way people park sometimes, like, okay, I'm gonna be triple blocked.
You mean for the interim? You mean just for the interim?
Yeah.
The
We
temporary
can-
stripe the stone.
We can look at it. We also haven't discussed whether or not we're going to plow that in the winter, and I mean, there's other pieces to consider, and not purposely disrupting the base, so.
So, moving on, we have a temporary timeline right now till we receive SED approval. As a project team, we're anticipating SED approval by the end of the month, so we could be prepared to bid this. So we would have a start period of that first week of December of putting the documents on the streets for bidders to be able to start reviewing them. We would do a pre-bid walkthrough of all the facilities with the contractors that are interested in bidding this on December 13th. We would do a bid opening January 10th because of the holiday season. Want to make sure that we do get a full interest from contractors. We don't want to rush the bid where some of them aren't around in town to be able to participate, so we'll wait until after the holidays. And then our goal would be to come to your Board of Education meeting on January 17th for awarding those contracts. So we can kick off the project and start working with a lot of this construction work with a lot of it ahead of us.
Just a quick question about the bid. You talked about the bid climate
Yep.
before, and either a good bid climate or a bad bid climate. Are there conditions that you can see at a macro level that would make the bid climate better or worse, and what are we right now?
There's things that we always look for is time frame of your bidding, what the workload out in the community is of the different areas, towns. I mean, because we spread across, I want to say 9 counties in the Finger Lakes area that we have contractors coming in from all different areas. So it's a workload on them. How busy are they? And then also materials. If there is a material spike that's going to drive something up, which our estimating department's always very closely looking at the markets on those, and we bid hundreds of projects over our time period here that we're able to see any trending that's happening. Right, that's gonna be stuff that really goes, if steel goes up, we've seen that in the past in 3 years. But right now, putting in the market where we stand right now, we're in a very good climate where contractors are hungry. They're looking for work for their backlog. When you find that this end of the year bidding, people want to make sure that as the new year turns over, they have a backlog for their employees, they have places for them to work throughout the year. So that's something that we're always trying to capture a fall bid. So that's something we're gonna do right now.
Mark, do you have a best guess on SED final approval? You said you submitted in April. What are they running in terms of timeframes?
It's changed drastically since Carl has retired from SED. It is now down to 14 to 16 week review period. When we submitted, we were up in the 20s. We were high 20s worth a week. So it's come down to it. And now that we've received this, it's going very, very good. We've already received comments back from SED regarding our plans. Our architects and engineers have returned those comments. So that's why we're feeling like we're going to be, by the end of the month, have approval on this. So we're already in that back and forth with SED. They've picked up our plans. They've looked at them with just a few things they want to make sure that we're all on the same page with before they approve them. So that's where we stand right now with that.
Okay, thank you. I know the commissioner was talking at that meeting I went to in September about that was one of her priorities, is to get the time frame down. And she literally said, "Do you know anybody who can do this work?" Looking for people because they were just overwhelmed by this different thing. So obviously, she found some people to do this work to make this happen. But I just wanted to see how you were seeing it from your end.
Right now, it has gotten better, and I know they're continuing to look at different ways to review projects. They're talking with third-party reviewers still. They're talking with different BOCES groups that could review level 1 type projects. So there's a lot of different ideas being tossed out at the state level for that. So that's a good sign for us.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Board policies, second readings. May I have a motion, please? Anybody? Joyce, second Marty. Discussion?
Well, I was
Just wanting to discuss, huh?
well, I was just talking to my
Cohort.
mate here, but I thought I'd throw it out there for we're just commenting on some of the alternate projects that were listed.
We're on policies. Sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Do you have a question about the policy?
Well, I asked a question about the policy, but Brett answered it.
Oh, okay. All in favor? We have a consultant's contract for OTPT. May I have a motion, please? Pete, second Marty. Discussion? All in favor? 6-0. A new extracurricular activity, classroom activity, dance club at Minerva Deland. May I have a motion, please? Maureen?
Am I going to be the advisor?
Second.
Think of the next one.
Joyce? Discussion? Does anybody want Damon as the advisor for the club?
That is discussion. My question,
Are you ballroom or jazz or tap?
I'm funk.
my question is, since these are, the next few items are they activities, they're clubs, there's money involved in this, will the money of the person who's the advisor be not for the whole year, because obviously the club hasn't started yet, or has it? Is it just taking this long to get to approval?
Yeah, this is an appropriate time frame. The contract states that there must be 20 opportunities to meet.
Okay.
And what happens is that the advisor will have a sign-in sheet, and then they'll submit that sign-in sheet, and it gets processed that way. And the sign-in sheet will have the dates and the number of attendees. So at this point in time, schools have had their club fairs. Everyone's sort of been mobilized to get what the interests are, and the principals then discern, which clubs will meet the needs of the building.
Okay, so this is still part of the process that's just coming to us?
Correct.
Okay.
So these are at the club fair so that they're going to have students
They've already
participating?
had those club fairs, and they've recognized that these will be the big ticket items this year.
Good, science club. We're only at dance so far.
All in favor?
And they had that sixth grade, because someone asked, a sixth grade club, the seventh and eighth grade club was full to the max. So that's why they opened up a sixth grade club, and that one's full as well, so.
The science club.
Excuse me, yes.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so the next one is the coding club. May I have a motion, please? Maureen, Marty, second.
Can I come and learn all about coding?
Discussion? Discussion, no? All in favor? 6-0. The next one is a sixth grade science club, and as explained to me, there were so many students in the other levels of science that they needed their own section of science club. May I have a motion for that? Maureen, second. Marty, discussion?
I just, I'm not sure if it came out of the NISBA conference, but we were talking somewhere about the diversity in science and, STEM, essentially.
For women.
And they said that one of the methods to increase diversity in the STEM fields was through programs like this, right? Pushing down extracurricular and creative, fun activities down at the middle and elementary level to get more diversity involved. and then maintaining that as they grow up. So I love seeing this. And the cybersecurity coding thing as well, right? I think it's important that as we get kids to sign up for these things, we really, market this, if you will, to all genders.
I think it's important as we move along, if that's an interest of the board, we could bring in Kristen Larson to talk about how she's trying to make exactly what
That'd
you
be
said a
great.
reality, so.
Here's a report we could hear from. Some STEM stuff.
Two of the three of these say account needed, yes. That's assume they'll be doing fundraising type activities. Is that the purpose of an account, or what's?
Matt, are you familiar with the details of that?
I'm not, but if there's money flowing through and they have the officers, then there will need to be accounted for as a club.
Right, so two of them marked that. Is that what that means? They're looking for a bank account,
Which one- which
account
one?
on our-
These don't flow through.
Right,
So
so.
Yeah.
we get that every year. We get that list of extracurricular
Yeah.
clubs with accounts, so they all have, band, sports, whatever, wrestling, they all have their own sub-accounts within the district. Can we assume that all these will as well?
I'd really have to look at the further details. I don't have to.
Well, also, two of them were checked yes, one was no. So again, so does that mean fundraising involved, all that thing? where money will be-
These won't fundraise. I know that, just by being in the building, the science club is gonna need materials. And so you would use, account codes to fund that and support
So
that.
it's a general ledger account?
It-
versus
Well, I
a
would
fund?
support it through my principal's code, if
Right.
you will, right?
Yeah, that's an accounting code versus,
Yeah, but if it is an extra classroom activity fund and it has money flowing through, it should be recorded as an extra classroom activity fund and have the appropriate officers and then show up on that report for the financials. You see that separate one typically in the winter of each year is when the auditors review the extra classroom activity funds, so.
These will not have officers, I would assume.
the treasurer's report this month had extra classroom activities, accounts listed at the end.
But they won't have money.
I'm just wondering, are we gonna see those added, and again, money, but if you're able to find that out, or somebody.
Are you all set, Pete?
Yes.
All in favor? 6-0. Attorney for Capital Improvement and Construction, may I have a motion, please? Pete, Damon, second. Discussion?
Just verifying, same attorney, you're saying he's changing practices? Same attorney.
Yes.
Does that have any impact us at all?
No impact. It's just Harris has been doing this for a long time, and he's joining this firm, and then this firm will be responsible for maintaining all of the documents long-term. So it's a good thing.
We didn't have we had a contract with this attorney, not with the firm.
Harris Lindenfeld was the firm before, so we need to appoint this firm because Harris is going to be working underneath this firm. So same attorney, we're still working with the same attorney as a district, representing us on the Phase 3 capital project litigation.
He's been telling us for years he's trying to retire. So
He's trying.
He must have closed his practice maybe and then just joined to do some
Yes.
work
Mhm.
with these people, because for years he's been trying
Same
to do
person.
that.
Mhm.
Break free.
All in favor? 6-0. G is Facilities Planning and Space Room Utilization Study. It's a discussion.
I'm going to call Kevin Rademacher from Labella Construction back up to the podium, and he's going to talk to us about the concept of a classroom utilization study. In Fairport, we're at a very important juncture where we need to start thinking about how we're using our facilities. And the best way to do that is to fully understand how classrooms and buildings are being utilized. And we asked Kevin here to sort of come and talk a little bit about the scope of the project, or what a classroom utilization study will yield. And the board will have some questions about, what could we expect from an output perspective. So with that, I give you the floor, and we'll enjoy the conversation.
If it's blue.
There we go. All right. Have a little handout so you can kind of see some of the output of this. I don't know if you've looked at some of the proposals we've had, but this basically is an outline of what that proposal already states. The space utilization study will begin with a bunch of meetings with building principals to really understand how they use their building today. We're going to look at underutilized spaces. Due to declining enrollment, buildings have had student capacity in the past that was more than you have today. So there may be some rooms that are underutilized. That may not be totally true if the Board of Education has determined that they want to use a smaller class size. So you disperse that student population amongst more classrooms. But we need to look at that declining enrollment, the instructional schedule. Depending on how each room is scheduled each day, you may have some openings where you can consolidate some rooms into one. So we're just really looking for building efficiency from that initial perspective from the first scope item. Then we're going to look at strategic vision from the school district and the administration, how you plan to instruct in the future and what physical changes may need to be done within the buildings. So whether it's a science classroom or science combined with tech and math and their adjacencies, that may need to change over time. So that will affect the physical space moving forward. And so if you kind of flip through, you can see the sequence of work, scope and sequence of work is really kind of agenda, but if you look through the next couple pages, you can start to see some of the physical documents that we're going to utilize to do this study. We are on the second item. You see that we are in possession of the 10-year enrollment projection for Fairport. Part of this, once we talk to the administrators and principals, we're going to take the student enrollment to get an understanding of, yes?
I'm back on number 3.
Shh.
Develop concept. I thought you said flip through.
I'm sorry.
You're on 3 yet?
I'm on 2. I'll get there.
It's been a long day.
So we're gonna look through.
Number 3 out.
All right. So we're going to look at student population spikes and how that impacts what building they might be moving through in the future. So we're looking at a long-term strategic plan here and maybe making some changes to buildings to be able to get that construction completed if it impacts building space.
One of the most dreaded words in school districts is redistricting, changing. Would you be making those recommendations to us, or would you just be saying building usage?
I'm strictly looking at building usage. I mean, that may be a thing that comes out of it, but that is out of my hands if the administration sees that that's an appropriate move to reduce the amount of renovation that might be needed. It could turn into that.
So can you, I don't know, I think you've kind of hinted at, but just trying to verify, words like underutilized, efficiencies, right? The lens by which you make that judgment comes from where?
So it's really building principles, and we kind of go room by room. So we'll sit down with building plans, and we'll understand what teacher is instructing in what room for what time period. Certain, elementary, they're going to be in the room the entire day. That may also happen in the high school, but you're going to look at empty periods, empty time slots to see if there is additional capacity sitting within the building. Over time, some classrooms get converted to office space, so just understanding where resource rooms are now and how the building is being used to make future projections and planning.
Here's my question is, room use is data, right? We can actually measure how the room is used.
Yep.
And projected enrollment, we can actually use data to understand projected enrollment for the next 10 years. The strategic vision is something that I think that we're working on and we're talking about, but I think we could really use your help in understanding, okay, what are examples of strategic visions? I mean, we've got thoughts, but we could use some coaching as well and help us understand what other strategic visions are in districts around New York State that you've worked on, things that you've done, things that you've seen, or things that you've heard about being considered. And if you could bring those to us in some way, or maybe we can have a workshop where you can talk about some ideas, it would help us really formulate our strategic vision, because I don't think we want to just keep on upgrading what we have. We want to really form the 21st century school and make it something that is going to extend into the future. I think some of those things we need some help with, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really part of the plan. So,
Okay.
you know, not having kids in rows and having group teaching and peer learning and things like that, that's certainly, you know, kind of a change in the physical space, but also change in furniture,
Right.
and really,
Right.
Well,
If they-
your labs
Yeah,
as well,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And,
absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
technology, shop versus technology
Yeah.
classes.
Quite honestly, it's like, if there was like a model open, if there was a district within driving distance that we could go to and look, and, you know, I mean, I think that we'd really benefit from something like that, or you can bring a presentation to us and kind of show us things to look at. That'd be great.
okay, absolutely. Let's see here, going to 3 now. So, once we gather all our information, we've met with administrators, principals, we have all of our room data. We're going to start to conceptualize some plans, and this will certainly be tied into what we've discovered through our previous studies that we've done. So our building condition survey, we've developed some concepts within the building. You know, how can we improve your instructional needs now and in the future and over the next 5 years? So we're going to look at that capacity, and we're going to take it to the next level, and we're going to see where do we need to actually move students around within the building and change those physical space. So we're going to come up with conceptual plans, and we're going to apply pricing to those. But we're going to obviously have the concepts. We're going to show it, you know, back to the building principals and get buy-in that is the correct layout that's going to work for us in the future and future enrollment. And what we do after that point is we really start to look at what that does to our building aid. So what we do is we go through and we do what's called a building aid unit calculator. We take a look at 3 things. We look at student enrollment, we look at physical space, such as teaching stations, and we look at cost indexes, which all drives a maximum cost allowance for a building. And right now, each building generates a certain maximum cost allowance based on the classrooms enrollment, which translates into teaching stations. And you get a dollar value that you can spend on capital planning or capital construction over a 5-year period, and it regenerates after that next 5-year period on a rolling clock. So that's how you always operate. If we need to make any changes to that building aid unit calculator based off of our study, we will do those assessments on a calculator, so you'll understand the high school is changing from 30 million to 28 million, or it could go up depending on how you move those spaces around.
A few of us attended a long-term capital planning session at NISBA, so we're all experts now, so.
Okay.
But one of the concepts they talked about, and I think we talked about this, Matt, was developing a fiscal plan that matches your capital plan, right? And understanding that we can't do everything at once because of reimbursement and the building aid calculators you have. So I assume this would help us structure a phased approach to a larger plan, you know, do this first, use these capital funds to get started, increase your tax, whatever. I mean, shouldn't have said that, I'll roll that back, but nevertheless, have funds to get started, then get reimbursed, move on to phase 2 and so forth. So I assume one of the outputs from this exercise would be, this will be at the end, I guess, but give us the overall fiscal plan to marry up to this.
Yep, so number 6 and 7.
Okay.
We'll be providing you with an estimate and also a timeline schedule, which will incorporate that. Clearly, yeah, you're not going to go out and do a $200 million project. So we will phase it and do it by both needs for the physical changes in the building that need to occur, you know, to keep it watertight, to maintain your building, but also incorporate your instructional needs. And we will do it in a phased fashion with all of that in mind, yes.
So what does, or how does the building condition survey play into this conversation?
So this'll basically be instructional space understanding and changes. The building conditions survey generally yields mostly physical needs for maintaining your buildings. So so things that developed, which is what we're doing now, we're replacing all the roofs, making sure that everything's watertight. That really allows you to kind of refocus your energy back inside the buildings and make sure those instructional spaces are brought up to what you need for.
Will we be looking for redundancies or some, where there's overlapping, where those?
Yep, so strategically, if we're doing a renovation of space or something we see coming down the line, we may delay something that's shown in the building condition survey to be done, because we know in the following capital project, however we plan that, it will be completed then. So yeah, we're gonna look at everything as a whole, moving forward in terms of the capital plan. This will not be isolated or blind to what we've shown in the building condition survey.
Does it also take into account, with population, student enrollment, does it take into account, like, I assume it does, but the flow of students, say in a cafeteria, for example, an optimal layout, entrances, exits, and the number of lines we would have this, as an example?
Yeah, we would.
To optimize really the flow of people moving from place to place.
Yeah, we would look at if there's a bump in a student population that's moving through the district, as they move through cafeteria spaces, and that may affect having more lunch periods, because in the physical space, legally, you can only have so many students in there. Yeah, we would take a look at that and maybe change how you serve or how you seat students. Yes.
Do you see any advantages to, doing this in chunks or versus doing, I don't want to say all at once?
I think it's always beneficial to look at it as a whole, look at the district as a whole, just because you're going to understand how many classrooms you might have free, or the ability to change around function or expand rooms, or from that perspective, I don't see any advantage to isolating yourself to one building.
What's the time frame for a district our size, all the buildings we have,
To do the assessment,
Do a full assessment.
some of that is driven off of off of information really from the district and your vision, strategic vision. If that's not understood, which it's not right now, we're probably talking about a year to be comfortable in making that assessment. The initial assessments and understanding how the building use is today won't take a lot of time. It'll take a few months to get that. Once we begin to understand what that is, and then we'll start moving forward. We'll have our workshops and figure out how we want to instruct students. You want to instruct students, not me.
This includes instruction and non-instruction buildings as well? All the buildings we have?
It does and can, yes. We can take a look at everything. Yep.
So the present condition you would have for us in a matter of months?
Yes. Yep.
And we'll be able to see updates as we move along, but it won't just be parts and pieces. But a year from now, putting it all together, will be like what we're trying to realize. But along the way, we can have part and parcel conversations on what we're finding out, what we're learning, and how we're benchmarking our progress to see what we're learning and how is it matching up to our vision. And
Yeah, there may be multiple renditions of schematic plans on how to move spaces around, and then backing that up against a building aid unit calculator to make sure that we're in a good place with maximum cost allowance moving forward.
Matt, I'm just curious, but in your previous district, you were involved in a pretty large capital project, if I remember correctly. No?
It was actually at the tail, I was involved in all the planning,
Okay.
but then I joined this district.
All right, okay. But I mean, so I'm just saying, you have been involved in a planning process.
Planning process, yes, yeah. We
right,
went
good.
through a planning process in that district. It was a large roof project, actually, and interior renovations throughout the district, so,
Okay.
yeah, the planning phases, yes.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
thank you,
Wonderful
Kevin. Appreciate the
presentation.
timeliness of this. I know it was Saturday night. I appreciate your response.
So what's our next, I mean, you said the building condition survey's done, right? That's complete?
Yes.
Report ready? I mean,
It's not report ready. We're still collating and processing it, but.
Okay, so the survey's done.
So
If it takes a year, what are we looking at to try and get started?
that's such a large question. I think from this conversation, I think it's important that the board contemplates, how much do we want to do?
Yeah, there was the three options.
Yes.
To review tonight, so.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think we need to decide between 1, 2, and 3.
But we would bring that back for the next month. So there's lots of information to sort of reflect upon and digest. I can continue to give reports and updates, and then we can come back next month to sort of finalize where we are. We're not in a position to make a decision tonight,
All right, okay, sounds good.
even though I'm excited to.
All right, thanks.
Did that answer your question, Peter?
Yeah, I mean, just what are we going to be doing here before December then to try and make that decision?
Yeah, sharing information. And I do think that the building condition survey, as it gets in reportable form and digestible form, we will be able to see what we can immediately do and what needs to go into a long-term project. So we could start seeing some progress, if you will, or, movement.
One of the things we talked about in our retreat was if it would be possible to take a look at a sample. Do you have an example building condition survey that we could take a look at?
We have our building condition survey.
Okay.
So-
Or room utilization.
Or room utilization,
Oh,
right.
okay.
Is that, I mean, to sanitize it so we don't have any confidential information, but is it possible to look at a sample utilization study? To sort of, so I think in order for us to develop our vision, it would be helpful to see what the output of the utilization study is and what input that's going to give to us.
Yeah, the room utilization, we can give you some things, but basically it's conceptual plans or multiple conceptual plans along with tied into an estimate and the building aid unit calculator. So it's, some of those things are already shown, kind of the export of what you'll see per building in that packet that you have in front of you. But that will be the report, and through this process, we'll be presenting those thought processes around how we achieved the schematic
And
design.
I think
Yeah.
every district's unique, and the information, I think you said it perfectly, information is data for us, and this is going to inform what our priority should be, what we should be thinking about, how we could be tying it into our strategic vision for classrooms of what we want them to be. And I think as you come along and share information, and that's why I don't think like we walk away and say, see you in November of 2000, whatever it's going to be, 17. We're going to say, okay, where are we? What are we learning? What data are we learning? And I think as we move along, first, second, third, fourth, sixth, eighth building, we're going to be able to really see it take shape.
So is your question answered? You kind of want to see?
Well, I want to, in the interest of data, I want to get as much information back to us for consideration as we can. So, I realize that as we're going through, we're going to discuss and get reviews and reports, and that's going to be great. I just was interested if there was a simple example of what this is going to look like, or not even what it's going to look like, but just the format of the input to us.
Yeah.
So we can expect, when this is done, we're going to get this type of information to really help us formulate our thoughts.
So what the output, part of the output that we give you for a building aid, or we issue a 5-year capital plan out to you as part of the building condition survey. So that incorporates all the stuff that our architects and engineers have identified that are in need of replacement or reconstruction. And that is prioritized by us initially to say your boiler needs to be replaced over the next 2 years or something like that. So right now it's a 5-year plan that's outlined. We generally maintain that as you move through your building aid condition survey 5 years, and then we update it again at the next 5 years. But what we can do is we can incorporate the items that are in here that we yield from our space utilization and provide pricing and add it to
I think what
that.
they're looking for, though, is a model.
Yeah.
Like a
template
yeah.
or of what.
Yeah, which I can provide, but
Yes.
it would basically be that, but it would incorporate all of the needs and some physical, and some floor plans of how those changes need to take place to achieve what you want to do, along with a schedule.
You're not going to be able to give us a plan that's going to look anything like what we're going to need.
Yeah, I can give you some
Just
examples,
some
yes.
Example with a format, some idea of
I got it.
what we're going to be looking at and how to interpret it. That's good.
Okay.
Thank you again. Okay, we're switching back to the addendum H, the incomplete team application, which was something I learned about. And may I have a motion for that? Marty and second Joyce. Discussion?
I see this happening more and more often in smaller districts. Is this the first time that it's happened in, I think we did something with skiing one time, because those are very special activities, but I know that it's not very common that Fairport gets asked to do this.
You know, there's a resident expert here.
Resident expert.
I would say that we have had that in the past. It's, you know, like you said, the smaller schools seeking the larger schools to come and have their student athlete participate, like they're doing in this case.
I think Brighton was swimming, there was a few little bitty
I don't
little
have the
pieces. It's
exact,
been a
I
while.
don't have the exacts, but I know that it's.
It's been a while.
So now we have a Nordic skier.
I was wondering about why Wheatland and Chi-Li and Fairport, they seem to be so far apart, why there wouldn't be
I
a
think that,
closer.
I think there was a relational piece there that, you know, somebody knew somebody else and, you know, whether it be, you know, housing and, not housing, but, you know, transportation and, you know, accessibility, that was
Working out.
the best, yeah.
So out of curiosity, do they become a member of our team, or are they still competing for their school, but practice and do everything with ours?
I had that same question. They just practice, but they compete for their school.
For their school.
You know, the coach, our coach will have to manage and support and provide, you know, the right resources, but they compete for their school. They get their varsity letter for Wheatland Chi-Li in this case.
No conflicts of interest when we compete against them?
Everybody competes to their best
Well,
at
we
level.
have- we don't have that
And these are
particular-
always single people. It's not really, you know, our team, you know, when East Rochester and Gananda got together, they were a united group. That was a different kind of process. But I have seen it happen in the past where I think it was East Rochester and Brighton, maybe that's where I was thinking about it,
I think it's great.
have done things as individuals, because you don't win in some of these sports as individuals, as teams. Sometimes you win as individuals. So. Are we responsible for transportation and, or is there a cost?
There are no.
Do they provide something to us to provide for the percentage of transportation or something like that?
We don't
Do we
incur.
get anything out of it?
We don't incur any costs. We get the pleasure and joy of, you know, of supporting and helping out a fellow.
Insurance?
Insurance, you might have stumped me on that. I don't want to say anything I don't, you know, but I was informed we don't incur a cost. Wheatland Chi-Li will be, you know, paying for their activities, and I would imagine that, you know, there'll be the cross contracts
Okay.
for
Fine.
insurance
Okay.
and stuff. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Stump me.
Before we go into
You did.
the executive session, we have a chance for board
Wait,
comments.
we have to vote on this, don't we?
Oh, sorry.
Now they've
Yes,
thought
we
about it.
do. All in favor? 6-0, thank you. Any board member want to make a comment at this time? I see somebody pressing the
ready.
microphone.
I'm ready. Well, let me just, without being political, I'm just going to say, Brett, I really appreciate your comment. It was spot on, and I think that's what we need to focus on here, is maintain the integrity of our program for our kids and our staff, so that was good. I did attend last weekend, I believe, at the Episcopal Church. Actually, it was sponsored by the Episcopal Church. It was at the old Franklin building, the technology charter school. It was a community, it was part of a program that my wife took me to, actually, but it was titled The Unholy Trinity of Racism, Poverty, and Violence, and it was hosted by the Episcopal Church, but it was a panel discussion with, lovely Warren and other representatives from the city and a student from the city, and it was, I won't go into everything, but it was really a fascinating and enlightening conversation about racism, poverty, and violence. And there was some debate back and forth, and it was really an open discussion, but it made me think about, all of our responsibility in society to help and resolve these issues. And I think we are. I'm proud of what we're doing. In Fairport, I did go up and talk to people afterwards and just let them know that I think as a board, we're all in to help participate. And I know that several of you contribute to the Unite Rochester group as well. So anyway, there's more. I mean, there's YouTube videos of this session and this topic, and I think it's important for us to really understand it.
I just want to add to that, I sent you all a note about information exchange. We had great speakers on those same topics this past week, so you can view all that. And just a reminder, in light of your comments too, our Thanksgiving dinner at Brooks Hill for all of our immigrant families is Monday, so I think we can show up and support and encourage them.
This Monday.
We all had an invitation, I think, by email.
It's on your calendar.
Just to look for, but if you need the information, happy to share.
My favorite event.
And speaking of holidays, Brett, I don't want to give you one more thing to do, but last year I missed every single concert that we had in our district, and I would like not to do that again. So if there's some way we can get a list ahead of time of the different concerts, every building's in a different place, they're all coming up, and I would just like to be able to put a couple of things on my calendar ahead of time, because we know our evenings get full pretty quickly. I'd like to fill it up a little bit more during this next upcoming season. So that's my personal request.
May I have a motion to go into executive session, and Brett will be invited to participate. Damon, second Pete. Discussion?
No, not now.
All in favor? 6-0. When we come back to public session, we do not anticipate any actions to be taken.